Thanks everybody for coming to the November meeting of the Climate Action Planning Committee. Um, I'm Alex Hasha, the chair, and we'll call this meeting to order. It is 6:05. Just take a quick roll call. Actually, let's go around. You can each state your name uh, for the transcripts. Makes my life easier, right? Let's start online.
Matt
Steve?
Panucci, present.
Kyle Johnson present.
Arthur Doyle present.
Maggie Oldfield present.
Steve Popkin present.
Ken Johnson present.
Anna Morgan Barsamian present.
Great. And Alex Hodge is present. Wonderful. So that's a quorum. Um, First item of business, I wanted to vote to approve the meeting minutes from October. Has everybody had a chance to look over them? Any suggestions and corrections?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move their adoption if there are no corrections.
Thank you, Arthur. 3 seconds?
Second.
Okay. Uh, and all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? All right, the minutes are approved unanimously. Wonderful. Now, next item on the agenda is an update from our municipal energy manager, Kai Mueller, who's unable to join us this evening. But I do have a few updates to share from him. He sent me this email, I think, last Thursday. Last Thursday, the town submitted a letter of interest to power options for EV charging stations to be installed at the Council on Aging or Town Hall through the Community Charge Program. Also, last week, they submitted the Green Communities Annual Report. Okay, I'm getting a phone call now. So, hello, what's going on? Hi, yes, I'm running the meeting. I think you're on the wrong. Could you go to the agenda online or click it there? Okay, I got it now.
Hey, Alex, can you repeat again who submitted the electrification application?
So these are updates from Kai. So just a list of the things that he has done since we last met, that will be of interest to this committee. So one of the things the town has to do to maintain its status as a green community is submit an annual report. It's a lot of the data collection that enables our emission inventory and sort of tracking of energy costs and energy use in the town. So that's done. His next priority is completing and submitting an application for the municipal decarbonization roadmap planning assistance through DOER. And we were in touch today. He was either going to submit that today or tomorrow. In the immediate future, that'll get submitted an application. And then I think he is looking into a potential solar project. There's a few solar panel proposals that the town is considering that are under review, and then review draft NMC agreement from Rewire. I actually have no idea what that is, and I neglected to ask them, so we'll keep a little mystery for next time. Right, and welcome, Alice. You found the link. Great. So let's move on to topic 4. Well, are there questions about Kai's updates? Discussion? Apologies. All right, so let's move on to topic 4. Working group updates. Fortunately, Ron's not here, but his suggestion was that we should do a bit of a round robin through the emission categories and share any new and noteworthy updates since we last met. So who would like to go first? You some something?
Yeah, I don't really have any. I did touch base with Arthur and we're going to, have another meeting soon, but we haven't met in a while. I did want to mention, which was just that, we had been talking about how there should be like a way for the townspeople to like compost without having to subscribe to an expensive plan, and that is happening at the DPW yard. And they do have the plastic film collection now at the DPW yard, and also there's an electronics recycling. There's sort of fundraising event at Pierce on Saturday.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to dig through some of my drawers and get some of those old wires out of there, so.
I got rid of a lot of stuff last year, and there's more stuff.
They just, yeah. I have a whole drawer I can't close and I don't know what's in there, so.
Thank you for that reminder. So,
And if I may, I have some related information on the waste working group, and that is that the number of homes with black earth outside pickup was 353, and I understand we're pretty close to 390 at present, which is a very positive indication. And the estimated weight diversion from that is almost 3,000 pounds. On another note, there was a relatively recent audit of the waste management carrier for the servicing of Milton's waste. This is the actual trash and the recycling. I participated in one of these audits with Jack probably a year ago, this past April. The superior cut is about a 10% contamination rate, and communities don't want to go, if I recall correctly, over 15%. Once they start to get into that zone, the costs can increase for the communities. On the last audit, or the most recent audit with waste management, we were given a 17.7 contamination rate score, which is going in the wrong direction, of course. And Milton will have 6 months, probably 4 more months, since the audit took place, to complete an aggressive recycling education initiative prior to the next audit. One of the things that some people in town have reported to me is that it is not unusual for some people to put their trash in their recycling bin rather than putting out 2 bins, or if there is an extra black bag without a sticker on it, it might happenstantially go into the recycling bin rather than have a sticker affixed to it and put on this sidewalk with the black trash bin. And these are people who don't want to make complaints with neighbors and so on down the line, but they have seen evidence of this and have reported it in, which gets back to this need for an aggressive education program. And of course, we have a lot of turnover in the community, so the education of new residents is very, very important with respect to our program for trash and recycling collections. So more on this shortly. As Kim mentioned, we will have a meeting coming up in the near future. I'll be touching bases with Cassandra again on scheduling that, and then going through the mitigation work from the last audit report, and recommendations that will be back to the Climate Action Planning Committee.
Hey,
Thank you,
Arthur.
Arthur.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just quickly.
Well,
And this is because I just got a sticker put on my own bin because we've got some people doing some work on the house, and so the collector put a sticker on saying, "Hey, keep your cars basically away from the bin, otherwise we can't get in and service your house." Which okay, I understand why they need to be able to get in and service and be efficient. But it was a red sticker affixed to the top of my and this is trash, my trash bin. And so I wonder what kind of communication do the collectors actually provide to, if they see an extra bag put in recycling, why not put a sticker or something to tell the the neighbor, or to tell the homeowner, excuse me, this isn't the right process.
right. And actually, the stickers going on those bags, etc., at the present time should be a green sticker. The red stickers are out of date. The fee went up and the color of the sticker changed. Um, there are a couple of thoughts borrowing from past meetings on this that might be helpful. Matt, one is that some communities do what's called internal audits. They will actually random sample the recycling and the trash at residences throughout the community and get an estimate of what the improper allocation of trash and recycling might be. The other one is to work much more ardently on a continuing or ongoing education program. And this has some relationship to a recent communications workshop that was held at the public library, where there was a recognition of the fact that it takes more than just passive communication, i.e., putting something up on the town's website and expecting that people are going to be able to go to it and become knowledgeable and so on down the line, when maybe prices, policies, practices have been migrating over time, and have as a companion to that a communications program where you can reach out to the community and make them aware of changes and best practices in the community, not just for waste, but for a lot of other matters in a town like Milton. And we all know that the best communication takes place when there's a two-way process, not just a one-way process.
Yeah. Again, I would not have even known that these stickers existed except for the fact that I got one in the last 7 days. So I just seems a very effective way. I won't make that mistake again, but seems a very effective way for this two-way communication between the collector and the resident. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, this dovetails to a pet concern project of mine, just because there's quite a bit of loose trash or litter in my neighborhood and has been for several years. Um, and I think it'd be interesting, and I don't know what research or thinking there may be around this, by the Public Works Department or others. But it would be interesting. Um, I could see this being an interesting project for studying people's like practices around how they're using their bins. I think part of it in the issue is being around more dense multifamily housing. There's more overfilled cans that have things that fly loose in the wind and things like that. I think that's one of the reasons, but I think there could be some interesting overarching studies about how people are using their bins and how communication about mitigating some of those issues along with proper waste protocols.
You're spot on. The last communication I had from this was a request to actually have some type of an open forum in the community on waste management.
Excellent. Well, as immediate update from the waste group, thank you very much. And Steve, I think you said you had some news to share in the transportation category.
Yeah, some some at least talking points. So I guess first of all, the big news from today was that the U.S. Department of Energy, they have abolished two offices. Uh, so they have removed the Office of Clean Energy Demonstration and the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. So these were organizations that gave out grants to communities. So that's winding down. That won't be so much of an option as they move to other priorities. Um, I had the opportunity of going to the MIT Mobility Initiative Visioning Day last Monday, and uh, they are very focused on electric vehicles and mobility. So just a few ideas coming from there, as well as meeting some innovators there. The first is really the focus is what folks here have found effective is really just talking about mobility. When you start talking about the fuels or how people move there, it starts getting off in other directions. But if you're talking about everybody needs to get somewhere, so leaving it at the mobility and how and as for the conversation point, and a point was also made that as communities are sort of shifting and thinking about electrification, at the same point, they should be thinking about automated vehicles. That one is there's probably going to be more grants associated with that, as that's more in line with the current administration. Um, but in any infrastructure you want to put in, you want to have it as AV focused. AVs are going to be electric vehicles, and there also are going to be a big push for those. And so those are providing mobility for people who may not otherwise have easy mobility options, such as seniors. So maybe reaching out to the Council of Aging or talking to the T about their paratransit systems. And there may be grants along those lines too, with Safe Roads and Streets for All. For example, they're the ones who sort of put road diets in place. So, in thinking about, and it's too bad Kai isn't here, but in thinking about sort of the contract language that the town puts in place for its own fleets, or in setting up infrastructure, trying to make it sort of AV ready, so we don't have to redo these things twice as these new types of vehicles come online within our organization. With regard to electrification in particular, there was an interesting presentation by Charger Help, who made the point, and I have the report. I can send it around if people are interested. That um, the data that they've collected from a few thousand charger points in the country is about one-third of charge attempts fail at the first time. And while the chargers themselves are becoming more reliable, around 95% or so, assuming proper maintenance, about a third of the times people fail at the first attempt in trying to get the charge going. And there's a number of reasons for that, including maintenance. The firmware isn't updated either on their car or in the system in a proper way. So there's the whole mindset of really trying to understand the infrastructure and making sure that you have the right people who are on top of that infrastructure to make sure that it's interoperable, and that there's some cross network compatibility, both in how you pay for it and the system itself. So the three main pain points are the charging speed, the time at port, and the reliability or success. So these are things that, as we're thinking about building out that infrastructure in town, that the town has the capacity to think about that and either put that in their contracts or have somebody who's able to monitor that these systems are working properly and are providing, proper data and transparency to us if we own those or housing them, to know if how they're working. That helps with the trust and adoption of these technologies. I can go on a little bit more if you want me to.
I have a quick question. So here in town, I don't know this for certain, but my impression is that the public charging spots that I've seen are all part of the charge point network. And I have wondered if they make data available about utilization, reliability, charging volume. So I would think it would be in their interest to do that because having more information about where there's utilization and where there's unmet need would help municipalities buy more chargers, which I would assume is their goal. So I don't know. I mean, if you have an answer now, great, but it would be great to find out if what data is available about the utilization of the chargers that we have.
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to reach out, or is that something Kai does as part of his job?
I'm not sure whose job it is. I don't think it's part of Kai's job yet, but it may. Well, yeah, I would certainly ask him first. I didn't
Okay.
see it in the Green Communities reporting.
Matt?
Yeah, sorry, I had to come off mute. This is totally off the subject of electrification, so I will yield to anybody else that had a question about what Stephen was actually covering there. It's related to the road diet on Randolph Road and any impact that may have on folks choosing other routes through town other than 28, given it's only one lane each way. But again, I've already asked my question, but should wait if other people have questions on what Stephen just covered on electrification. Anybody else?
I will say something about the road diet. I was going to cover this too,
Okay.
and so I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Of what are we really expecting for mode shift here? Who's really gonna? So we're in a bedroom community in a fairly well-off town. What are we expecting as mode shift here, especially when you have road diet? So one benefit of those is okay, people will feel more comfortable being on bikes, for example, but they're even more comfortable if there's actually a barrier there protecting them from the cars that are going by. And thinking about it myself and just looking around town, I mean, the benefit are people who use their bikes on the weekend and maybe, students who bike to school during the week. I'm not sure from an energy perspective um, how much the road diet and that sort of activity is going to buy us in the near future versus trying to do a fleet transition. So I was going to bring that up, and that sort of leads into what you're talking about Route 28, where you have more traffic. People are going to look for other roads to avoid that bottleneck. But we're not really limiting. We're just dispersing the traffic or emissions more broadly rather than on that one road. It seems to me.
Yeah, well, and principally it was for safety, and I, living in that area, obviously am a advocate for safe travel through town, and just whether they would be also looking at um, the number of cars. I'm not thinking of the right terminology here, but you understand what I'm saying. It's like, look, are
Yeah.
people staying on the highways instead of cutting through town, knowing that whatever it was, 80-90% of our transportation emissions were actually not, due to non-residents, right? So just wondering whether that was part of what not DCR, but whether MassDOT might also be looking at that over time to see whether it's other roads in town or people staying on 93 or 95, just what the impact might be over time.
So I'll just say that's explicitly part of the road diets. It's a pilot, and when they explained the pilot to the select board, earlier in the year, that was explicitly part of their scope, that they
Right.
said speeds will come down, it will get safer, and the question is, what does that cost in terms of new issues popping up elsewhere? So they're monitoring where traffic's diverting to.
Okay. That would be
And then
interesting.
that's nice. I'll say anecdotally, just in terms of mode shift, I bought my 13-year-old a bike and let him bike over to his friends' houses now. And I wasn't ready to do that when Randolph was a 4-lane speedway, but with the current configuration, I'm okay with it. And so at least one teenager's horizons have opened up because of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear that they've got it as part of their study. I didn't realize it was a pilot, but okay. Whether it's a year or 24 months down the line, the impact not only on safety but also, on emissions. I mean, I know these aren't things we measure every year to see what the what the emissions are due to transportation through town, but in the next 5-year study, it might be 4 more years before we actually get any data on it. But maybe it is having an effect. Maybe more people are staying on the main highways and not cutting through town.
I was going to ask along those lines, what data are they collecting to make a decision on whether this pilot is valuable, and do we have access to any of those data? I'm hoping it's more than just the number of accidents or near misses that are happening. Do they have those VASCAR where they're testing how many cars are going over an area at a certain time of day? Do you know?
I don't, but we should absolutely. There's a project email inbox from MassDOT that we could send questions to.
Yeah, it'd be great to know that. It might give us another lever of analysis.
Right. I can follow up on that. Okay. I think I took up enough time. Thank you.
Great update.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Ron, good to see you.
Sorry, I had a really busy day. So.
Oh, no worries. But you got here in time for the new and notable topic that you suggested. Would you like to give an update on the conservation?
Sure. Yeah. So, as far as conservation is concerned, I think the notable development is that we were able to submit 2 proposals to the I forget, the climate community RFP that was out, and what's that?
The Eco One Stop program?
Yeah, the EcoWest. Yeah, sorry. And so one of them is a proposal to do a study to measure the composition of the trees in the Milton portion of the Blue Hills, with the goal in mind of trying to determine if the existing tree composition is optimal in terms of sequestering carbon and affecting emissions. And it's a short study. It should be completed within a year to 18 months if we get a very minimal amount of funding. The second proposal is a proposal to study the impact of climate change in the Neponset River Valley on property holders abutting the river valley, and to what extent, I think it's 150 houses that are part of the study, to what extent their structures and their foundations are threatened as a result of seawater rise and various movements in the configuration of the dams. They're part of the Neponset River Valley and other climate-related impacts. And so this again is a relatively short, low-priced activity, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. I don't know. Do you know, Alex, when we're going to hear about these?
I don't. I was just going to ask you if you've heard back from them yet.
No,
we have
nothing.
we have a topic at the end to discuss the Eco One Stop grant opportunities specifically. So maybe we can circle back to this then. So
Okay.
I've had a feedback session for one of them, and I submitted two and haven't heard back about one of them. So
Okay, I haven't heard anything.
Alex,
Yes, Arthur.
maybe I can just add a footnote to Ron's comments to the effect that there was a meeting the night before last with the Neponset River Watershed Association. They've been doing a major study of the entire watershed area with a particular focus on the estuary, which would be essentially from the Baker Dam down through Boston Harbor. And the updates for the flood maps are just about complete. We'll be getting a pretty good report very shortly on adaptation and mitigation recommendations. But the prognosis in terms of seawater rise is quite significant. And the area of housing and other facilities, businesses that would be outside of Milton, but in that lower estuary area, will be significantly impacted in, I would say, the next 25 years at most. Certainly the outlook for 2070 is very, very significant in terms of the impact of seawater rise and the fact that this would not be as infrequently as we are used to it occurring, i.e. with the king tides, but rather most likely A, on a monthly basis, and B, with the incoming and outgoing tides being regularly increased due to the sea level rise, which can sometimes be combined with increased precipitation as well, which means there would be surface sheet water going in addition to the seawater rise having an impact upon what was mentioned. And also what communities like Milton would have to consider is the impact on infrastructure, sewer, water, gas, all of which are currently underground, but in the not too distant future in some areas, particularly in that location, would be underwater as well as underground.
Arthur, I'd really like to see a copy of that study if it's shareable.
Okay, be happy to, it should be forthcoming shortly, Ron, and I'd be happy to share it with you and the other members of the committee.
Great, thank
I
you.
think I received meeting materials from that, even though I didn't attend. I could forward those. That came today or yesterday. Very nice. So that leaves buildings. Hale, do you have anything you want to mention?
The only thing I would say is that you submitted an expression of interest on my behalf related to geothermal for a portion of the town, for actually the two churches on either side of the town hall and the town hall itself. And I don't know whether you have any feedback on that yet or not, but that's the only thing I really had to add.
No, I haven't. And we'll circle back to that. So I guess in some broader updates, I think since we last met, and maybe some of our listeners weren't at town meeting, the town overwhelmingly approved the climate goals article that we brought. 92% of town meeting members voted in favor of it. So that's a new and noteworthy development. In the same vein as Hale was talking about, so Hale is a member of the UU Church to the right of Town Hall if you're facing the library, and I'm a member of the UCC Church that's to the left. And in this spirit of the first steps towards a shared geothermal well system, which would be an exciting and sort of novel clean energy development for the town. That's preparing for that looks just like preparing for any sort of heating system replacement. So our property board voted to work with Massachusetts Interfaith Power and Light on an environmental stewardship assessment for our building at Kenton Avenue. So that's just an example of one more large building in town beginning its electrification journey one step at a time. Just an example of the type of thing hopefully more residents and businesses will choose to do as well.
Alex,
All right.
if I may, somewhat related to the commentary with Ron, is that topic about the climate resilience regulations for the state that I shared some information with you on recently. Would you want that to be shared with the committee as well?
Thank you. Are you talking about the proposed bill in the House of Representatives, or are you talking about something else?
This is to move the regulations that have already been through public review, essentially off the governor's desk, because the current regulations from 2014 still use outdated rainfall data for stormwater calculations based on information from 60 years ago. And no standards have ever been issued for development in the coastal floodplain, despite the fact that the Wetlands Protection Act made this a protected resource decades ago. And the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissions has been advocating the release of the new regulations. The public comment period was completed some time ago, and no action has been taken yet to release the new regulations. And the apprehension is that this is not only outdated at the present time in terms of going back to 2014, but with an election year coming up in 2026, unless something takes place before the first of the year, there's a possibility of them being delayed for implementation for another year. So the association asked for comments, and I took the liberty, after sharing some things with you and with John Cannon, of writing the draft letter from the MACC to the governor, also sharing copies with each of our three legislators to hopefully get those regulations accelerated and acted before the 1st of January 2026. And if anybody wants further information on that, I'll be happy to provide it.
Thank you. And I will follow up to include those documents you shared with me in the minutes when I put them together. Thanks for the reminder. Right, and you also reminded me of another thing I meant to mention, but had forgotten. Over the last few weeks, there was a bill being considered in the Massachusetts House of Representatives that in the name of improving energy affordability, which I think is a very important priority, was moving to significantly reduce mass save funding and eliminate or sort of make fully symbolic the 2030 emission reduction goal that's part of the Massachusetts Climate Roadmap Act. So there was a significant criticism of the bill, and it's been, I think, withdrawn for further study for the time being, but it's something to be aware of. It's changed numbers a few times, and I really don't understand how bill numbering works. I think it had one number in committee and then another number when it came out of committee. The most recent bill number is H4744. It probably will have a new number when it reappears in the next session. But I think there's just something to be aware of, that I think energy affordability is becoming a very serious issue, and but I'm sure the legislature will do something about it. You know, they need the input of the whole community, including folks like us who are concerned about reducing emissions, to make sure that there's an appropriate balance. And I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that clean energy is more affordable and plentiful in the long run. All right. Any other updates before we move on to topic 5?
Alex, is there a way
Yes.
to formalize this new and noteworthy section of our meetings so that each meeting for the 4 or 5 working groups, there could be a list of the new and noteworthy events, and maybe if there's a follow-up, there could be a line that says follow-up. And we could just map this from month to month. I think it would be useful.
It'll certainly show up in the minutes. You want me to, and if they're, well,
I mean, if it shows
I
up in
think
the
this-
minutes, I could take it and try to format it if you want.
Sure,
Or
yeah.
somebody could do it. Hey, maybe AI can do that. I don't know.
I took longer than usual to get around to preparing the minutes this month, but I could try to be a little quicker. Often, in the day or two, I have to wait for MATV to post a YouTube video, which I need to do the minutes. My mind wanders usually. But, yeah, I think this was a good addition to the agenda, and I'll keep it on in coming months.
Okay, great.
Okay, so the next topic is a discussion of our work modes and focus. You know, I've talked to a few of you over the last week or so about you know, how we should organize going forward, and would like to talk to more of you about that. But also, you know, I heard a theme pretty quickly from those discussions that there's this tension between sort of continued refinement of the plan or focusing on implementation of individual items in the plan versus a sort of more general project of outreach to residents, but also to partners and stakeholders and town staff and in town, and generally gathering the resources to make the plan successful. With you know, particularly fundraising, recruiting committee members, recruiting you know, people who can help the committee with things that we are not already excellent at, let's say social media campaigns. So I wanted to, you know, I had a version of this discussion with a few of you. I'd like to have an open discussion with the whole committee. Do we want to sort of decide as a group to focus in one direction or the other? I do think that it's pretty clear we can't do it all at the same time. I also think that this is volunteer work, and I don't think anybody should set aside a burning passion to do one or the other in order to go with the group. But I just want to see where people are at on this question. So I'll start talking about
Sure, I'll start. And again, kind of speak personally about my engagement since the draft plan was completed. And I missed a meeting. I think it was last month. Had a conflict. But in general, there seemed to be me personally a lot of engagement in the committee in getting that draft plan completed. And I would say on through the article, and there was a number of drafts on the article submitted to town meeting. And I know we're only talking about 60 days here in between, but just less engaged. And so, as a committed committee member, I want to pour my time and energy into one of two routes. I have a personal choice, but I think the two are either sign me up for one of the four committees, whether that be conservation, transportation, waste, or buildings, or a pivot towards a more what I'll call horizontal focus, which would be on recruiting more committee members, as an example, or inventorying funding sources. Just as two example, one would be fundraising, the second would be recruiting, just to kind of use general terminology that I think people will understand. And so my personal preference is that the plan is, I wouldn't say good enough, but I'd like to see us work more on outreach, as an example, and on recruiting more committee members or advocates or partners that can actually help us get more work done. That's my kind of personal preference. Again, easy for me to say because we're working on the mitigation. And that was what you guys might recall. What we were focused on was drought and fires. And there's certainly more work to do there, but as a committee, we've decided to focus more on the reduction pillars. Look, I'll go either way. I want to be a part of the committee. I want to be valuable to our progress here. I would prefer to be working on recruiting more committee members and/or on kind of a social media or otherwise outreach plan to our community. But I think we have to choose one or the other. And my personal preference would be bringing more resources to the committee, whether that be funding or people, and or some sort of outreach campaign that I think we've all mentioned at different parts over the journey for the last couple of years. That's it for me.
Yeah.
Well, just sort of building on what Matt said, I think any opportunity the committee has to broaden its reach and bring in more engaged members just builds support for the work the committee is trying to do. Personally, for myself, I'm very much interested in seeing the committee achieve some wins in the town. I really do believe that the old expression that nothing succeeds like success. And the more examples of actions that this committee can push for and achieve, I think will be self-reinforcing and accelerating further mitigation and sustainability efforts.
That sounds like a vote for implementation.
Yes,
And
it
do you
is.
have wins in mind?
Well, I'd love to see the geothermal project completed, but it's really any project in the town that moves the dial. I mean, that's ultimately that's what we want to do. We want, planning is great. The plan, the climate action plan is almost by definition always going to be a work in progress. But action is really where I'd like to see the committee focus, achieving specific outcomes.
So I'll say for my part, I think my person, and this is partly just like where my personal strengths and passion are more in the outreach camp, but I don't see that as necessarily mutually exclusive. In fact, I think they're very complementary, because I think the best way to move toward implementation is through continued networking, building constituency, making connections, and getting input from other stakeholders in order to find, what are the best avenues and the best action points for implementing various things we may want to focus on implementing. So um, that's kind of where I would be inclined to at least spend my time, and I would make the argument that it fits into a broader strategy that goes along with implementation.
Thanks, Kyle. Arthur.
Like Hale's comments and those of Kyle bring to mind the fact that implementation requires resourcing. And that's not just human resourcing, it's financial resourcing. So might we want at some point in time to possibly have on our agenda a discussion of what a financial resourcing roadmap for the Climate Action Planning Committee might be? We have, of course, the town budgetary construct process and the need to be looking at that in advance of when town meeting ultimately approves a budget for the community and what we might want to be submitting for budgetary considerations within the town. And the second one is grant resources from private, state, federal levels for which the agenda of the Climate Action Planning Committee might be eligible, and recognizing again the window, the time associated with needing to identify, plan, and submit those applications.
Thanks, Arthur. Ron?
Yeah, I tend to lean with Hale. I'm into doing stuff. I think we get bogged down in the process aspect of this. We need to have more people, but to spend 6 months trying to find more people is, to me, not as productive a use of our time as we could make it. I think it is possible to do things even with our small group that give evidence that this committee is focused on the issues that matter. For example, we could, in each of our 4 areas, hold a small public hearing around the issues that we've discussed, which would, A, get our agenda and our implementation more visible, while at the same time, hopefully, getting more people interested in our work. I think to decouple the process of getting us more efficient and funded and all that can just take a lot of time. That, to me, is more, if not equally valuable, to be spent on dealing with some of the issues that we talked about earlier in this meeting.
And maybe this is what Kyle, you were also saying is I think this idea of outreach, a couple of people working on outreach, Ron, on behalf of the again, I call them the verticals, the reduction teams. Um, so it kind of comes off your plate for the coordinate. How do we do it? How is it hosted? What agendas need to be published? What does the PowerPoint need to look like? Just as an example, where you still get this action, but you've got somebody supporting you to pull it off, I guess is maybe the middle ground here in terms of what I think where we could be helpful. Helping
Yeah.
you get the word out, assuming everybody has that as a priority within their working group.
Yeah, that's good. I'm just saying for me, just thinking about the conservation piece of this, it would not be a big deal. I mean, I can think off the top of my head of 5 or 6 organizations that ought to be interested in this, and to convene a meeting of them for a couple of hours should not be that big a deal. And I think it would have big payoff.
But that is outreach, right? I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
hear we should focus on outreach, I don't think there's a lot to be gained from a sort of like scattershot, unfocused audience. So pure awareness raising outreach. I think you have to think about, well, if I wanted to move forward with this, who's buying what I need? Let me reach out to them, right? Or who do I need staff time from? Uh, and so, my ideal situation, like a year from now, if things go perfectly, I would like to not be chairing this committee. I would like to be kind of putting 90% of my volunteer hours into the home electrification coaching program. That's one of the top recommendations of the building section, right? What stops me from doing that tomorrow is it's just a lot of work to hold a space for this meeting. There's a lot of work to sort of keep reaching out to town staff and town leaders and keep this sort of climate action plan on the agenda broadly. There's a lot of work to, um, I'm working on one grant application right now. It's a lot of work, right? So I am definitely with Matt that I think we really, for this to take off, we ultimately need to bring more people into the work. And people don't just show up for work unless you reach out to them with a compelling message about why the work is worth their time. Right. So I think having a group kind of focused on, well, how do we do that in a more organized way, I think is necessary. I want to take back what I said earlier, that we can't do both at the same time. And I think I don't think we can just do plan refinement and expect it to go anywhere. But I also don't think you can do effective outreach or fundraising decoupled from implementation, right? Because if you go and ask for money, they say, for what, right? To do something, right? So, I mean, it sounds like we've got a couple of us who are sort of really wanting to focus in on specific projects, and I think that's fine. I've certainly done that. But I would love to get a working group assembled to kind of map out what we need to do for fundraising, for recruiting, and for targeted outreach. Not super general, but like Hal said, I think to bring people in, you need to let them know what the successes have been and what the next success might be, right?
Well, I think it would be good to like reach out a bit more. This might be the scattershot thing that you're kind of not liking, but like to let a lot more townspeople know what we're doing, because I did feel like the 92% vote.
Yeah.
That there could be like more people out there, and who knows what sort of skills they have, and they're just, busy people, but they're like this climate action planning committee, and like what I was before I joined, that's interesting. I want to know what they're doing. they might have some skills. So I would see at some point, maybe having some sort of informational meeting for
Yeah.
that anyone could go to.
I agree with that. I think that there's some preparatory work that would support that, or support a social media campaign, of just saying, hey, what are you? In the plan that we've written so far, what are some of the key messages, recommendations, calls to action that we want broader awareness of?
There could be some points that people in town have, like some interests, some things that they would like the committee to focus in on.
Yeah.
And they, we are sort of working for everyone, so.
Right, like I think my feeling about further plan refinement is that I don't want to refine a plan that nobody's reading, right? So the couple times that I dipped into the plan to add things or make changes since we did the first draft have been because Nick Milano had a question about something, and I wanted to answer this question, and if we can do kind of outreach where we're starting to get organic feedback from people who feel that this affects them, then there will be more sort of organic demand for improvements to the plan, and that would be the time to do it in my mind. But now we gotta go get that engagement. So who, just to tie a bow on this, if you had a little more time left, who would like to be? I will send an email around to set up a conversation about outreach, recruiting, fundraising, and try to get organized on that. Who does not want to be on that email? Okay, Ron. Yeah. All right, excellent. Steve, which camp did you land in?
I'm more of wanting to be on the implementation side of things. I wanna do things, and I'm looking for who are the partners. If we want to change how we buy things or how we think about infrastructure in town, we need town partners involved here, and so.
So there's a little outreach to do there, but more like person to person.
Yep.
So I think that's fine. So Ron Hill and Steve will stay focused on sort of moving specific things in the plan forward. Everyone else, I'll send an email about setting up a meeting to plan some next steps for outreach and fundraising, and supporting the implementation efforts that are going on. But Steve, just one comment. I mean, the municipal decarbonization roadmap is, getting resources to complete that is currently on Kai's plate. I think there's solid buy-in to complete the climate leader communities certification, and that leaves the zero emission vehicle first policy. And somebody needs to push that along. I get the sense that the town fully needs to do it. But helping with connecting to I don't know how much fleet planning they intend to do as part of making that commitment to getting from where we are today to a fully zero emission vehicle fleet for the town is like pretty long-term complex undertaking. So whether you sort of put the policy in place and then sort it out as things come up over time, or whether we want to do more proactive long-term planning, I think it would be great to have somebody from the committee engaging the town on that.
Yeah, and I think there's so yes, and I think there's a connection there with, for example, you were talking about the grants, and so maybe as the fleet has to replace itself, maybe we look for grants that put the gap between an ICE and an electrified vehicle for example.
All right, excellent. Thanks, everybody. So final topic is circling back to the Eco One-Stop grant opportunities that have already been mentioned. So I think I mentioned in the last meeting or before that, submitted an expression of interest for grant funding to secure consulting support for our committee. And specifically focused on completing a robust public and town stakeholder engagement process. I think that having professional support will make that a lot easier. That seems to be what the consultants in this space. One thing that they're strong at, and then the towns that work with consulting support, when you look at the acknowledgement pages of their plan, like the number of people they managed to get involved in getting the plan done are much larger than we've been able to engage so far. So that expression of interest, I had a feedback session on, and it was very helpful. So in the past, I've seen climate action plans funded by the MVP action grants, that's Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program grants, and also EEA land use planning grants. And so now only the EEA planning grants cover climate action planning. And so they advised me to focus on preparing an application for that specific program. And then what they'll really be looking for is a detailed scope and budget. For that plan, they said reach out to consultants now, basically, and start putting that together in partnership with potential partner for the project, and good consultants should know exactly what to do. So since then, I've been reaching out to the select board and the town administrator's office, trying to get them engaged, because they will need to approve at least, but hopefully also be involved in preparing the grant application. I have solicited feedback on consultants that other towns have worked with through a couple of listservs that I'm on. She recommended I join the Mass Planners listserv, which is something you guys could do as well if you're interested. Say an email list that town planners from towns around the state ask each other inside baseball questions on. It's really kind of fascinating to watch. Mostly not about clean energy, but also about clean energy. And then I reached out to MAPC, which they recommended is a very good kind of baseline quote. You should work with them to work on a project scope. So I have a meeting with MAPC's clean energy directors tomorrow at 11 to discuss kicking that off. And if anybody would like to join that meeting, just let me know, and I can add you. And I think also when we get a working group together on fundraising, I would welcome any support on moving this forward. I think we'll need to get on the agenda for the select board at some point. And I would love to get town staff outside this committee a little more involved in the process, and just having more people pulling on that would always be helpful. So the other one I submitted on behalf of Hale, I have not heard back yet. When I did the first feedback session, I asked about it, whether we were going to be talking about both or just that one. She said they're kind of processing them in the order they came in, and they obviously got a lot. So they're kind of working through them in the order they were received. You know, the other two were submitted right before the deadline, so it might be a little while, I don't know. Might be worth reaching out to them just to make sure everything's on track and our turn is coming up. The application deadlines for a lot of these grants are late January, early February. And you know, it takes multiple meetings to get a grant application together, and it's hard to schedule meetings at the holidays. I think it's a good time to start being a squeaky wheel. Any questions, comments?
Well, I'd be happy to join that call tomorrow too.
Okay. Lovely.
Alex, who would I reach out to in the state to get a read on the EOI that you submitted?
I'm not sure, and I can do that since I submitted it. I would go to the Eco One Stop page and scroll down looking for contact emails.
Okay.
Because the feedback session was with the person, you know, leading the grant program that I was matched with. And I think because we don't know exactly what's the right grant program for your proposal, you know, could go through email all the grant program leaders one by one, but that feels inefficient. So hopefully there's a central inbox to reach out to.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there a specific identifier for the grant that you submitted?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I'll have to check. It was like a Microsoft form. All this Microsoft stuff.
Yeah.
A weird facsimile of the Google analog. I don't know where to look for things.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any more comments before we wrap up for the evening?
Well, thank you for all the work you're doing to keep
Yeah,
this
thank you,
committee
Alex.
moving.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate you all
Here.
being here. And with that, should anybody wish to move to adjourn, it would not be unwelcome.
When is the next meeting?
What's that?
The next meeting date? Are we meeting in December?
That is an excellent question to ask at the end of the meeting. Our normal, our sort of regularly scheduled time would be Thursday, the 18th of December, which is my mother's birthday. Though we're having the party before, so I'm probably free. Does that time work for everybody else?
I really should get another plan for that night.
Rush. Okay,
I forgot to check the calendar.
it's okay. Anyone else have a conflict? Okay, so far so good. So we'll keep it on the 18th for now. And so we have a motion to adjourn from Kim. Any seconds?
Second.
Stephen?
Second.
Seconds, all in favor? Aye, all opposed?
Aye.
All right, Ron, that wasn't an opposition, was it?
No.
This meeting is adjourned. Everyone,
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
stay here and please have a restful and relaxing evening.
And happy Thanksgiving to all.
Happy Thanksgiving to you
Thank
all.
you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Same to you.